Hi Book 2, this is Lindsay from Lindsay Reads. Sorry I've been absent this week. Maybe you can hear it from my voice, I don't know, at least to me my voice sounds off. I got sick, and yay for being off work for like 3.5 days, but not for a vacation or anything, just because I've been really sick. But I'm finally getting over it, and it's on its way out the door, luckily. So I'm just going to be doing my weekly wrap-up from last Sunday to Saturday. And I've only read 4 books, but one of them was one of the mammoths I've been planning to tackle. So I didn't get a lot of reading done. I got really sick on Tuesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday were the days where I was just like out cold, sleeping almost all the time. So that's still really good for basically 2 days of no reading. How shocking and rare is that for me? So yeah, let's get into the books. The first book I finished was Courting Moro Little by Laura Franz. And let's see, this book came out in 2010. And initially I really liked this book. It's like historical fiction. It's also deemed Christian fiction. It's about a woman who has grown up in Kentucky in like when Kentucky was like a frontier area back in the 1700s. And right after, I think it was right around the Revolutionary War, like 1760s, 50s, 1750s, 60s, 70s, somewhere around that timeline. And so she's competing, her family is competing, or not competing, interrupting the Indians, Native Americans' lives basically by, trying to take over their land. So the Shawnee are constantly in war with the English, basically. And so her family is like a frontier family, and her life gets disrupted at a very young age because the Native Americans come and rob and like filter her town and her home. Her mother and her little sister, it's not a spoiler, it's like from the very beginning, I believe. Well, it doesn't say. Just her family's torn apart, basically. So I'm just gonna say that her family's torn apart by this Native American invasion, and so she gets sent to her, I think it's her grandmother or her aunt in Philadelphia, and to be raised as a proper lady. And so this is it introduces like the incident at the beginning, very first chapter, and then after that it's flash like when she was like 5 or 6 years old, and then it's flashing forward when she's 16 or 17, and she's making her way back from Philadelphia to the Kentucky homestead. And so initially I like the books. I like frontier kind of like historical fiction, making your way on the land and living off the land and setting up a community. But what I didn't like is of course there's this like war going on between the Native Americans and the white people, and that's to be expected, but there's a lot of racism involved, and again, that's to be expected with this historical time period. But the main character, Moro, she is taken to a fancy to one of the Indians. She called in her neighborhood, who she helped rescue with her father, and he became this Native American boy became really ill, and so she's meeting him again. Same with her, he's coming back to the town. She's coming back to the town, at a older age, as a marriageable age, and so she thinks he's cute, but she's like, oh no, he's an Indian, we can't, what am I thinking? Even looking and thinking he's handsome or whatever. And so, but then later in the book, she finds out that he's half Native American. And so she's, oh, okay, well, that's acceptable then. And then I can consider him cute. And like at that point, I'm like, So I didn't really get on with this book that much. It was an okay book for historical fiction and, like Frontier Kentucky. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't my favorite book. This next book was, I read my first book for March Mystery Madness, Strawberry Shortcake Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is the second book in the Hannah Swenson series. And this is cute, like all of her stories are cute. This follows Hannah. She owns a cookie called the Cookie Jar. It's a bakery a cookie bakery. And so in this one, her in her small town in Minnesota, she is elected to be a judge for this like dessert competition. And one of the judges, lo and behold, dies. I think like at the contestant table. Sorry, it's been my brain's been fuzzy. I can't remember everything in the story. But yeah, one of the judges dies, and it's like, oh, maybe it was too harsh on the cakes or something. Maybe that's why he was killed. And so that's kind of how the story opens. It's a cozy murder mystery. It's a really cute series. I think all of them are like related to sweets. And like the first one was the chocolate chip cookie murder. This one's a strawberry shortcake murder. So they're all like food related. And what's really nice is opening of each chapter roundabout is a recipe for a cookie or a cake or whatever that was mentioned in that chapter. So I really like that aspect. Now I've been listening to them on audiobook, and I didn't get the narrator's name, but I'll just pull this up real fast because I didn't get the narrator's name before filming. Sorry about that. Just one. Okay, here it is. It was a really nice narrator. She did a pretty good job. And it's not mentioning the narrator, but it says it's by a recorded book. So it was from 2001. So it's not mentioning it. But maybe it was narrated by Joan Fluke herself. I'm not sure. And so the next book is another murder mystery. I needed some light reading this week because my brain really couldn't handle a lot. So this one, it wasn't as cozy. It's Hide and Seek by Ian Rankin. This is the second book in the Inspector Rebus series. The first one was Noughts and Crosses, and this is Hide and Seek, my first time going through this series. And this one opens up with, they're all set in like Scotland. This is in Edinburgh. And at least the first two I read are in Scotland. And it seems like I think the rest are going to stay there too as well. So it's very like atmospheric. It's kind of like, when I think of Edinburgh, I think of like the history and the castles and stuff. So this is kind of like the underbelly, like the dark underbelly seedy side of Edinburgh. And it's opening with a drug addict who is found dead in a tenement, like a squatter area. And he is like in the living room, like it opens up with him like in the shape of a cross, like Jesus on the floor with like these candles around him and like drug paraphernalia as well. And then on the wall are these like I don't know what you call it, like witch symbols. And so Inspector Rebus is it looks like a cut and dry kind of case. There's a drug addict. He's drug paraphernalia around him, so obviously it's a, simple, solution, but it's nagging at him. Like all these different pieces of the puzzle is nagging at him. And so it was a good fast read. It was 224 pages. So it was real fast. And I think for mysteries, I like them to be, pretty quick. So, they're not like long drawn out narratives. And so it was a really like fast plot driven case. And then this last one, all the other ones are kind of short, like up to like 300 pages. But this one was the mammoth I was able to tackle. This is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. And I had to get to this one because I got it from my library. And I know there's a bazillion holds on it, so I wanted to make sure I was able to read it before I had to return it. And this was a really cool idea. I like how it was one book, and it's not going to be a series, like a fantasy series. Because you know how they can go on and on forever. So I like how it was just one set solo book for this whole world and story. It's east and west, basically, are the two opposing sides of the land. You get point of views from various characters. On one side, you have Queen Sabrin, and she is Queen of Innis, I-N-Y-S, I think that's how you pronounce it. And her lineage, her legend is she to keep away this evil dragon that could be uprising, she has to continually, her line has to carry on with one daughter. As her, all of her people in all of her family have only had one daughter each. Like, they don't have any sons. They only have one, and so it's like this burden is on her to have a daughter, get married and have a daughter, and she doesn't really want to get married. She's been putting off getting married and having a child because, you know, she wants to live her life, but she has this burden. So it's starting with her. It focuses on her in that area, and then along with her in her court is a woman who is working her way up the ranks because she is a spy sent. She's like a sorcery, a mage is what she's called. And, you know, she practices magic, and she's put there to watch over the queen, Sabrin. And so it's also a perspective of her and working her way up in the ranks to get close to the queen and watch if there's any assassins, or of course there's going to be assassins coming, you know, or you know there's a queen involved, and you know a mage, a sorcerer to watch after her. And so it's those two. And then on the other side in the east is Tane. She is learning to be a dragon rider. So you get like all these elements of fantasy. It was really cool. You get magic, and then you have queens, and then you have in the east Tane, who is practicing to be a dragon rider, is what they call when she's because they have dragons, which really interesting take on dragons. I don't want to give too much away about, you know, what's unique about them, because you have these like this evil dragon that's like a fire breathing dragon that's uprising. So, you know, the whole book is revolved around how they can prevent, you know, this evil dark one from coming back. And so, of course, eventually all these like different areas of the world are, you know, going to come in together. And what I really like about this fantasy book is it was pretty big. It was like 848 pages, but it didn't take me too long to really get into it and want to turn those pages, because it wasn't just dragons, a story about dragons. It wasn't just a story about, you know, queens and kings. And it wasn't just a story about magic. It had everything in it. And it also, you know, it had pirates, it had spies, it had sword fighting, and it had everything you can think of in a fantasy novel. It was in there. So, if you've been considering reading it, I would recommend it. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice thing to read to keep my mind off being sick. So yeah, these are the 4 books I read this past week. Hopefully I can make a lot more videos coming up this week, since I felt bummed. I missed out on making some videos. So what can you do if I can't talk? Then I mean, I even thought about doing like a sign language video, but I don't know how interesting that would be if I can't voice it. You know, I was thinking, you know, I could voice and sign at the same time, but if I can't talk, I'm just signing. I mean, I could maybe put the closed caption or something on the bottom. I didn't know how interesting that would be. So let me know if you'd be interested in a signing video. I don't know. So yeah, thanks. See you soon, book 2.